Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I haven't been filming for some time. I've been working on the wife's car. She needs to get that up and running for smog and everything, so I've not been able to pay much attention to the 109 here for a few weeks, and also it's been really roasting hot. So last video I put out there was this sectional patch here. Everything went pretty well. I was pretty happy with the way that went. As I said, I've still got to put seam sealer on, but I'm not going to do any of that until this is fully enclosed and done, and all these little areas have been attended to. Anyway, let me get in closer and I'll show you what is the next patch I want to tackle. It's kind of a tricky one, a lot of aspects to it, and I want to try and build it all in one rather than sectional. So anyway, let me get the camera closer. Okay, I think that's a pretty good angle for you guys. So what we got going on here, this is obviously these two holes is where the bottom of the fender bolts to, okay, and there's a little step panel here. Someone has already been in here before and done a repair patch, and there's some kind of funky metal plate that they put in there that they can screw into. This is more of the original type clip. There's a slot and then the clip goes in, so it has a little bit of movement for adjustment, and then you can screw it in. So that's obviously what I'll be doing. As I say, this is a patch over what I think is kind of just rusty mess behind there. So what I want to do is remove this whole section, replace it. Now it's got these series of steps here, but this area here is a curve. It's like a 1/4 inch radius, tight radius curve. Then it curves down to the rest of the rocker down here. Now been laying in bed at night trying to figure out how I'm going to get this sharp radius, and also I still want to keep using my 16 gauge steel. Obviously the next thing we need to do is figure out the distance between the top of that bead to the first step. Okay, that looks like 1/4 inch there to me. Looking like my eyes aren't as good as they used to be, I'll tell you. Hold on. Actually, no, let's go 7/8 because of that extra. So 7/8 step. So 1/4 inch, 7/8. Let's take that to the bench. So I'm just going to do a little bend in here. You don't need to see that. You've seen me bend metal before. Clamping it, getting it all marked out, and then we'll go on to the next stage. We can see this gives me a nice stepped area that I can clamp something to, solid, and then try to make the bend coming out 1/4 inch, I think it was. Yeah, that's a 1/4 inch. So 1/4 inch beaded out and going down. So this enables me to clamp it a little easier, I think. We'll see when we get it in. And okay, so with a little bit of fussing around here, I've got a piece of my angle iron that I think is going to provide me just the same radius of the bead that we need. I've clamped it. Essentially, this is essentially almost a mold of what we got up at the car. Then this guy is going to get clamped on here like so, and then we're going to bend it round this radius edge here. And we've got to make sure everything's really super tight, because when you're whacking on it, it does shift stuff. I'll probably clamp this to the vise as well. We've got it clamped on top, we've got it clamped down at the back, and we've got it clamped pulled this way, and I've just got to roll it over this metal edge here. Everything's really tight, and we'll see how that works. I won't find my hammer. Where's my hammer? Not that one. Oops. I need that really. Okay, if you can see what I'm doing, these clamps are crucial, the ones to hold down the pressure here so we get a nice sharp defined line on this metal bead here. And every blow I'm trying to check in the clamps, make sure we don't come loose. Okay, so obviously this is all getting cut away, but you can see now I've got my nice radius and my step here, and next job is to define this little curve back up. You can see that I've got pretty good definition down the bead there. Let me see if you zoom in on that guy. Hold on. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, so I've got my step here, I've got my little sharp radius here. This radius has got to go a little bit more that way, and then that's when it curves. So that's just going to be off of my, I think I've got like a little drawing of it over there. So to get this final radius here, I'm working it on this old piece of railroad track. You can't get straight into there, so I'm having to work the curve, stretch the metal. So just doing a little bit at a time. There you go, starting to get my curve. The more I do it, I'll stretch it over it and try and get that as close as possible. I'll check it on the car. But with a bit of help with the old railroad track, and what I did, I left a bit of waste and planished it over to get my curve started. I felt that it would help me get a good start. Now I sliced it off, and then I could define this sharp little concave here, and let me see if you can see that. You can see we've got a nice step, we're down, and then we've got a nice bead, and then curved in to meet the curved rocker. So let's go and have a look on the car and see how well it fits. Obviously I made extra, but let me just set that in there. So you can see, once that gets set further that way, that bead should come into contact there. A curve ready for the rocker is good. So what I'm going to do, next thing to do, is define where we're going to cut it here to weld it in. And to get this little ramp piece up here, what I'm going to have to do is slice along here, bend this tab up and inset a little triangular piece. And that should do it for this very tricky little patch. I'm pretty pleased with the way that come out. I really was kind of a bit of a head scratcher, this one, but you can see it's come out pretty darn good. I may have lost a little definition here, would have liked it to be a little crisper, but I think obviously once that's on there, the fender comes down, and then we've got trim that comes along here, you see. Isn't that right? Yeah, look at the other car here. So this gets trim anyway. And then once it's all painted in, you never know. So I'm pretty happy with that, because I don't think you can buy something like this. And like I say, it is 16 gauge. That's what was the challenge was. I think that made it a little tougher, but at the end of the day, it's easier to weld in, you know, because we've got some meat there. I thought I'd end this video, but I thought no, it's the next day now, and I thought I'd try and take care of this little ramp section here where it arcs up. Here, zoom in for you. Okay, so we're just looking at this little section here where it kind of ramps up at the end, and this is our patch here, you see. Okay, so what I'm thinking I'm going to do is make a cut along this edge, lift this back plate up, and then welding essentially a long triangular piece to simulate this little quick arc here. I just want to measure where it starts and the height of where it ends. What the gradient is, I don't think matters too much, as long as it's kind of meeting at the top here. And yeah, let's see how we get going. So let's take some measurements. I'll make some measurements with a Sharpie and then see how we go. Okay, just like in the restoration work I do for furniture, not all the time it's measured with a tape. It's just what looks right. So, and this corner's been kind of messed around with before. So I'm just gonna see what looks right and mark it. So I'm gonna give it a little waste. Just to starts around here. So, and and then ramps up. So we're going to cut along this section here and lift this tab up, and then that will give us an area to weld in a piece. It does actually arc in a little bit as well, by the looks of it. Kind of arcs in a little there. So let's see what we can come up with. I didn't actually shoot this because I didn't want to move the camera, but essentially I just put it on my guillotine and it curled actually on its own, just because of the way the guillotine works. It curls it up. So see, that is getting very close to ramping up here. What I think I'll do now is to simulate this curve. You can see that on the camera there. See, I made a little Sharpie line to curve there, and then we'll just weld a triangular plate in there to simulate that curve. Like I say, it's been messed around with, so I think as long as it matches to the top here, we're good to go. So, okay, again, I actually used my bench shear, that thing over there. You can actually pick those up pretty cheap. I think I paid $100 from that, $110 from Eastwood. And I tell you, if you want to cut, you know, it'll cut 16 gauge steel really nice and straight. It saves a ton of time rather than using a hand cutter, and it was able to cut this little piece off as well. So I'm going to grind this and put some shape to it, and then we'll see if we can fill this little triangular area in with a triangular piece and weld that sucker in there. Just a little tweak there. You always forget to take the finger off the trigger, that's why it's coming out. I forgot to turn the camera off. Put a backlight behind so I can see where the holes are. Gives me some target practice. There we go. It's not bad. It's got a few little divots here. They don't show all the way through when I shine the light. I got pretty good penetration in the back there. You can see that. Here's a car and here's our patch. See, that's going to work pretty nice, I think. I've got to obviously trim this down at the bottom here to cascade down with the rocker, but see, next to each other our match is pretty good. I think once you get a load of, you know, paint and sealer and stuff on it, I think that's come out well. The reason I did this end first is then at this end, then I'm going to cut it depending on, I think this hole's pretty good, but I'm going to probably just cut it right here, cut it right down and then Bob's your uncle, just straight in there like that, you see. Now I've marked it, I've put some tape on because then I can mark on the tape, makes it a little easier to see my line. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do this, cut this with the door on. I may have to take the door off, which I've obviously got to do sooner or later anyway, so let's just see how we get on with this. There we go. So as you can see, they just double layered it. They just slapped a patch over a rusty area. As you can see, I've left a little tab at the top here and bent it out because this is right where it kind of concaves in and then meets the trim board here. So I'm pretty happy with that. That fits on almost perfectly, really. It can go a little further in. I'll straighten this edge up, get this as straight as possible with the grinder, and I'll probably use a straight edge, and then I can fine tune this into the job. Get very close. This is been a lot of grinding on this back edge here and here to get this as near as darn it. I do have to do a little trimming up here, but there's a little bit that kind of needs to come off here to send it further that way. But I'm working this back edge as close as I can to get this flush with the bead here. So we're very close. That's approximately where we're going to be welding it in. Okay, today we're going to clean this area now that we've got the door off, and make sure we've got no extra damage around here, and make sure we've got a clean area to weld to, and also make sure that all our body lines, I've got the fender out there to make sure that we line everything up correctly before we weld it in place. So let me clean this guy up. Time to bring the big guns out. I got one of these clean and strip wheels. My buddy who worked in the bodywork industry for a long time always liked these. They look like almost Rice Krispies and stuff, you know, but they don't take too much of the metal off, but you can get the rust and paint off really quickly. So I haven't used it a lot, but actually I haven't used it at all. Let me zoom out there. I haven't used it at all, so yeah, takes it off in seconds. A little tricky to get right into there, but I may have one of these in the smaller grinder one as well. But let's get this all taken off. Just checking that post, that's beautiful. It comes up lovely, that doesn't it? Nice short work of that. So I've been cleaning the area, accessing this now drain hole, found a little pinhole here, if you can see that guy. Zoom in on that. See a little pinhole here, and also this area is a little worse than I expected. It's starting to creep back to probably good metal to about here, so obviously there's going to be a little patch let in there. Now this is obviously where the rubber threshold plate is. You know, water can come down, and I'm assuming it gets pulled into this corner here and it doesn't escape, you know. So this little area is somewhere to keep an eye on, and obviously a lot of time that's hidden by the threshold plate. So that's maybe some area you guys want to check. I'm just prepping this area for our welding and making sure we've got good alignment, and then I'll probably after that I'll attend to this little patch so we get some structural strength here, and then leapfrog over to this guy. It's just a question of, you know, planning it out, not taking too much off at once, you know, so we stay structurally strong. Obviously this is a major strength panel, that's all good and solid, so this is all spot welded in and wrapped, so nice and solid here. So let's try and fine tune this patch, line it up and get that welded in. Now I've taken some time to grind a little bit off of this fascia here to send the patch a little further that way. This is a little tricky to kind of get this little corner set up. I got one of the welding clamps in place to keep it level. Now it's still loose here. What I thought I would do is just put a tack weld in here, maybe here just to hold it, and then I could remove this, maybe even get one at the front here, then I can remove my clamp. This is very difficult to clamp along here, so I thought I would just clamp it here, hold it, put a little tack weld in, and then sort of build myself out. I've already put the fender on to make sure our location's good. I haven't trimmed this yet. This is going to obviously need trimming this way, but what I thought I'd do is I'd get it welded in place and then trim to shape while it's in place. Then we know we're good, and then I can come back with the wrap panel here, and then my because this I think this is even going to be cut kind of about there, going by this. I'll show you how I got my alignment. I've got basically a straight edge here running where the trim would go, clamped it in position, checked our alignment along here. We're just pretty much spot on, so that's crucial. Obviously we get that correct. Most of this is hidden obviously under the fender, but you've got to have a good base to weld. So I think I'm going to set the welder up and get a couple of tacks in, and then remove this clamp and carry on. The trickiest part of this patch really is not so much making it, was you know, fine tuning it. Just take your time to get it all fine tuned before you go welding it in, and I think you won't go far wrong. Just treated everything with weld through primer as well, because these are going to be areas that you know, it's going to be difficult to get rust encapsulator on the edges and everything. I'll be pumping in a bunch of stuff in there, but got the weld through primer on that, and the patch piece got weld through primer everywhere. Just let that dry out here. Okay, so let's get a few tack welds on this guy. Okay, took me a little while to weld that in, spot welded it in, you know, tack welded it, and then worked my way along, ground it, checking for pinholes, use my trusty light here. I just go in behind, gives me an idea, check some pinholes, make sure it's all welded up properly. This little area here is a little tricky because there was a fair, you know, a good, bigger gap than I would have liked, so I built up the weld very gently, bridge the gap, so worked really well. So it's really solid in there now. It's all aligned up nicely. So now we'll come in with this patch at the end here, or I'm not sure yet. I might put my rocker on first, then patch the end. So I'll decide that. Do this little repair on the top here and here. I might bang a patch on that in a sec. And you know, we're getting there. Okay, as you can see, I put my little square patch here, completely sealed that off, primed it underneath. I left this long so I can get this angle cut for this patch. I put a little bit of rust encapsulator over this because that's bare metal, but you can tell it's nice and straight. I put the carpenter square on the straight here. Let me get that, I'll show you how that went. Okay, I think you can see a really true gap there all the way along, so we should be good. Whoever did these repairs before, there was some patchwork here. They didn't put a lot of seam sealer on here, so I'm going to claw all this stuff off, clean all this underneath here, and reseal all the joints and everything and recoat the underneath. So you're always seeing these little things, and if anyone knows where I can get these little clips, I'm going to need a few of these for down here and on the fender on the other side as well. They're just little captured clips that sit in these slots. So yeah, if someone knows where I can get those, that'd be great. Then we'll patch this, bring in the rocker, and then the floor, then that hole, and then I think we're done in this corner. So it's quite a bit of work, but it's been kind of fun. One of the members in the group said, made a comment about restoration. It's like eating an elephant, one little bite at a time. And I thought that was a very good description, actually, but it's true. You know, if you think about the whole job as a whole and all what you've got to do, I think you can easily spook yourself and get freaked out by it. But just concentrate on one little thing at a time, one area at a time. Really zone down to small areas. Set yourself a reasonable tasks, you know, each time you do it, and don't worry, I'm just concentrating on this corner of the car. I'm not thinking about all the other welding I got to do. I just do this, work my way back, flip the car around, work on the other side, and slowly but surely I'll get it done. Same in the restoration game with the furniture. You know, you get these big jobs here and you just have to work your way through it one bit at a time. So I hope you've enjoyed this little welding video. It's been kind of a long one, I know, just because the patch is kind of involved. That's it really. Thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you next time. Click subscribe and the like button, and please make a comment. I'd love to hear your comments. And that's it really. Alright, thanks a lot guys. Take care. Bye bye.